Hey guys, Mitch here with the TheAudioDabbler YouTube channel, and I'm going to take a look at a little bit of sound design inside of Poison 202, and I'm going to see if I can't make a nice, dynamic pad that evolves over time. And so let's dive in. Alright, so this is Poison 202 from Gem Audio, and I'm just going to take and go to an initialize patch, which may not be the easiest thing to figure out at first. One quick way is if you go to just the first analog lead that comes up, if you go backwards, that will go to your last user patch over here, and then if you go one forward, it will create another user patch in it. And there you have a nice initialized patch to start from, which is I like to start with a initialized patch here. Okay, and so this, you've got two oscillators here. So what I'm going to do to create the pad is go ahead and let's go ahead and do the amp envelope, so that way we can get a nice fade in, because I like to let me turn that balance over here down to oscillator 1 so that we're just hearing oscillator 1. Alright, we hear it fading in nicely and fading out nicely. So that's giving us a nice, pad that kind of fades in already. Okay, so now this is a sol. I kind of want to do a little, on oscillator 1, let's do a little square and adjust the pulse width of it, so we can get a little pulse width modulation, which is modulating the pulse width. This gives a little extra dynamicness to the sound. I'm going to go up an octave on my keyboard. Alright, so unlike other synthesizers that have like modulation matrices or weird dot things like in factory, this one doesn't have anything like that. It has some LFOs over here that you can adjust the pitch, filter, and amp with. But the filter and the pitch on each of the oscillators has its own envelope. And let me show you what that sounds like if I just turn the attack, say, all the way up, and the effectiveness of the envelope all the way up. We're going to get a nice riser. Because it's just pitching it up. Okay, so but we don't want that. So what I want, and the decay will do the same thing, but whenever it gets to the peak, it's just going to decay slower, or decay, as soon as it stops, depending on what you have the D set to. And so let's just change this so that way it affects it just a little bit, but not too much, because I want it to evolve. And I want it to be very, very subtle anyway. I don't want it to be like noticeable pitch. I just want just tiny variations in it. So then we can go over here to the filter, and if we would like the filter to open up, then we have a filter envelope here. But I can play and it's not going to do anything, because see, now I can start adjusting the amount of the envelope that's going to be affecting the filter. The decay really don't matter if you've got the sustain all the way up. I can turn the sustain down. Let's turn the decay up. Okay, then now let's actually turn the cutoff up a little bit. And the further I go this way, the more it's going to open up that way. But I want it the opposite way. Going to open up the other way, but I want it to go from here up, and you don't see any visualizations, you just kind of hear the sound. So as it plays, as the attack of the sound fades in, the cutoff kind of fades in and opens up that filter to let more sound in. And so that's a already sounding nice. I mean, we could throw some reverb just on this one right here. So let's go over here to the effects section, throw a little bit of reverb on it. Let's go select the reverb. Let's turn the size up, the color. Let's kind of dampen it a little bit. I mean, that's already sounding, you know, pretty nice in itself, and I've not even messed with any of the LFOs and Oscillator 2. And so let's do that. Let's turn the balance over to Oscillator 2 here. And let's go back and turn off the reverb so that we can just focus on the initial core sound of the oscillators. And I like this super saw because you can also adjust the mix of the super saw, and then you can detune it. It just gets fat. But you notice we have an initial attack, and so we need to adjust the attack here. Let's take the sustain down a little bit and the release. And that's sounding good without a filter on it as well, but let's maybe put a little peak filter on it, and let's see what that's going to do here. Let's make it fade up, the decay, release. Resonance on. So that's sounding pretty good. Maybe add just a tiny bit of pitch. Not even enough to really be noticeable, but it's there. Alright, so now we can go on to the LFO section here. Basic LFO sections. You got different types of LFOs, and let's see, a sine wave. And this right here is kind of where the, I guess, more of a modulation matrix would be, because this was going to affect the pitch. So if I turn the pitch all the way up, you're going to get some crazy things like that. It does have a nice feature called fade, and so while we have this extreme pitch, let's turn the fade up, and you will hear that it's not going to initially, you're not going to initially hear that crazy pitch, but then it's going to fade into that crazy pitch. So listen to this. Turn it all the way up. It gets crazier as it goes on, but I don't want it to get that crazy. So maybe let's just like 0.2. Let's turn the rate down to really, really low, so that way we're just getting a little bit. Not enough to detune it like completely, but enough to kind of widen it out and give it some fatness. That's pretty nice. And then if I want to add a little tremolo, basically that's what an amp filter is. That's what a tremolo is a LFO on the amp. And okay, so that's Oscillator 2, and it's sounding actually really, really good. So let's start balancing it out and see which one. Okay, so let's go back to the effects. The reverb is on. Let's add a little bit of delay here. Let's turn the feedback down. and the time down. Back into it. You could add chorus to it. Give it even more movement. Okay, so let's one last thing here is let's add a little bit of sub to give it a little bit of a sine wave underneath. Not too much, because it can become muddy if you get too much. Just add a little bit of noise, not too much, because you add too much, it can get really hissy. But if you just add just a little bit, it gives it just enough to be washy but not overly, intense with the like gritty or hissiness. So, all right, last little thing here where I'm going to add a little bit of EQ, not too crazy with it. You can also have the velocity effect, but I haven't really messed with that too much, and so I'm not going to try to teach you something that I haven't really messed with, and I'm pretty happy with this sound. One thing that I will note here, you have two different types of how this will go. You can go kind of the routing, if you would, more like if you had a modular system and you were like plugging wires in from different places. So oscillator 1 is going through filter 1, going through amp 1 and out, and oscillator 2 is doing filter 2, amp 2, and out. And so that's, kind of, and that's where you have that balance knob. But you can also go in series to where the amp on oscillator 1 is controlling everything, but each of them have their own, or the oscillator 2 has its own amp, but the filters are affecting, and you're only using the first filter as well. So you can do series. So because we have a different filter on that second oscillator, you're not really hearing that when it's in series, but if you turn it in parallel, you're getting that top end because we did that peak filter on it. You can turn it to solo if you wanted to, and that'll make it mono. And then legato does its legato thing, and that's pretty much it. You've got a little mod wheel stuff you can adjust if you want to. If I was going to, maybe play live, I'd probably want to mess with this mod wheel, but right now I'm not, and so I'm not going to fool with adding the mod wheel to change some of these settings. But yeah, that's pretty much the patch, or a patch. And so when I'm doing these videos with the sound design, I don't necessarily, I guess I do want you to kind of follow along, but then I want you to just go in there once you get it, maybe save what you did, and then just go in there and try different waveforms and adjust the filters and the amp envelopes. Maybe you want it to fade in quicker. Just dive in, because that's really the only way you're going to truly learn sound design, is just getting in there. I mean, I can teach you the basics, and I can show you kind of, hey, here's Poison 202, here's how I made a pad sound, but until you really just get in there, you're just, basically copying a manual if you're just copying everything that I do. It's kind of like learning when you'll learn math, and then you'll get some problems that you haven't been faced with, and then you figure it out. Kind of like this right here. I've given you the basics on creating a pad in Poison 202, so now you go out and kind of mess with the settings yourself and do some things like that. One last little thing, I'm inside of AUM if you couldn't tell, but I also have a shimmer and black hole. And so, not to take away from Jim Audio's effects here on this patch, But because in AUM you're able to add in external effects and things like that, just listen to this. Like swells it out crazy. You just get lost in a shimmering black hole, no pun intended. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful and it at least gave you some ideas. Oh wait, rename it. I will name this Pads 4 because I am basic. Pads 4, and now I want to write it. And now that patch is saved. If I wanted to create a new init patch, I just click the next one and it'll start over. Or if I want to go back to the one I just did, have it. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. You found this useful. Likes are always appreciated around here, and if you haven't subscribed, you like content like this, hit that subscribe, hit the little bell icon. I do have some financial ways you can support this channel. Direct PayPal me link and Patreon are in the description, along with other links to gear that I use and things like that. So in the comments below, if you're still here, let me know a synthesizer on the iPad or something that you'd like me to kind of dive into and create a patch, you know, with. Maybe something that's kind of obscure, like not saying Poison is not good for pads. Obviously it can be, but it's not its primary focus. And so yeah, just let me know what other synthesizers you'd like to see some sound design patches in. I'm more of a pads kind of guy, but yeah, it might challenge me to make some basses and some other things as well. So leave a comment below and I will talk to you guys later.